We've spent some $51 billion over the last 10 years on this program. This last year we collected about $7 billion. B as in big, so it is not a small program. We need oversight, and we need to identify how we can fix it, and we need to fix it in a bipartisan way. And I happen to believe that both the Barton-Stearns bill, or is it the Stearns-Barton bill? Barton's not here, so it's Stearns-Barton bill, and probably the Boucher-Terry bill, or the Terry-Boucher bill, in fact, provide some good starts so that we can begin to communicate together on a bipartisan basis. I have a particular focus on the E-rate program, a program that I support. And I would note that after the tragedies at Virginia Tech and Northern Illinois University in the last year and a half or so, we look at all the different issues at K through 12 schools as well. Wouldn't it be nice for parents of any junior high student or middle school or high school student to be able to hear from the school if there's trouble? Whether it be a bus delay, whether it be a snow or weather delay, whether it be a water shortage or, heaven forbid, something involving violence, so you could communicate with a parent or a guardian about their child's safety and welfare, either during the school day or perhaps even before it starts. And I would note that Mr. Rush is authored with me a bill that would allow the E-rate to, in fact, tap funds or allow the schools to tap funds to develop a program like many of our universities already have done as a worthy experience. So I look forward to this hearing and the testimony that we have. And, Mr. Chairman, I yield back my time.
Great. Gentleman's time has expired. The Chair recognizes the gentleman from Indiana, Mr. Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, first of all, for holding this hearing, and also to the panel witnesses for the opportunity to discuss the future of Universal Service Fund. The Universal Service Fund has supported the development and provided telephone service to approximately 96% of Americans. However, the continued integration of more advanced communications technology in our daily lives leads me to ask, should we refocus the Universal Service Fund deployment to focus on advanced services? I represent a rural community. I have constituents that are still connecting to DSL or have no internet connections at all. Their daily communications are through wireline services. They lack the technologies available to develop the skills to compete in today's digital world. I see the digital divide daily in small Hoosier communities. The Universal Service Fund should undergo reforms that will make the deployment of broadband more viable for all communities that are targeted under the current program. High-speed communication technologies are the future of our nation. Transforming Universal Service Fund into a program that will bring the latest technologies to communities least likely to see competition is one step we can take to ensure the educational needs of children and attract businesses to rural markets. And, Mr. Chairman, I yield back the balance of my time.
Great. We thank the gentleman for that. And all time for opening statements by members has been completed. So now we're going to turn to our expert panel. And we're going to begin with Randolph May. He is the president of the Free State Foundation, an independent, nonprofit, Maryland-based, free market-oriented think tank. The foundation promotes through research and educational activities understanding of free market, limited government, and rule of law principles in Maryland and throughout the United States. We welcome you, Mr. May. Whenever you're ready, please begin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. When I got the call to come down here on Thursday, I thought it was because you wanted some star power at this witness, at this hearing, but all of the photos seem to be directed in the other direction. But I'm happy to be with you. Since passage of the 1996 Telecom Act, the landscape has changed dramatically as a result of vastly increased competition. This increase in competition is due in large part to technological developments and in part due to the reduction of some legacy regulations. The upshot, as has already been acknowledged this morning, is that the existing universal service reform, the universal service regime, needs serious reform if telecommunication services are going to be provided in the most cost-effective and economical manner for the benefit of all consumers. New entrants and new technologies have rendered the existing system wasteful, inefficient, and competition distorting. I was going to cite a whole bunch of figures and facts at this point, but I think all I want to do now is mention once again that currently all consumers pay 11.4% surtax on their interstate calls. This is, in effect, a tax which suppresses telecommunications demand and reduces overall consumer welfare. And has been already noted, currently the telephone penetration rate is about 94%, and it's remained steady at that same rate for the past 10 years. The data show from the Census Bureau that the income level is the key independent variable driving penetration. The basic question to be asked about the future of universal service are the ones the chairman identified. Before providing my thoughts on these questions, I want to state two policy principles that should guide reform. First, market forces, rather than subsidies, should be relied on to the greatest extent possible to achieve the identified objective. This is more important than ever because increasing competition and new technology should drive down the cost of making communication services widely available. Second, if there are to be subsidies, they should be targeted narrowly and financed broadly. The current system is at odds with these principles. Without elaborating the specifics here, I will simply point out that the first principle is disregarded when subsidies are provided to carriers serving geographic areas in which market forces already have resulted in existing service, and when subsidies are provided to persons who require none to obtain service. The second principle is disregarded because the current system targets subsidies broadly to areas and persons who don't need them and finances narrowly, raising contributions from limited kinds of communication service. So what should be done? Recognizing that the goal of universal service as originally conceived to make voice service ubiquitously available has been generally achieved, declare victory, cap the high-cost fund. If the penetration level is to be increased at all, it almost certainly will be by virtue of more vigorous effort to target low-income persons to sign up for service. Now, I understand that the question of whether a reform regime should be extended explicitly to include subsidies for broadband services is front and center. In considering this question, have in mind the principles that I enunciated and the lessons that we've learned from the existing regime. We can have a lot of debate about how rapid the progress has already been in this country, and perhaps we'll have some of that, but it's my contention that due to market forces principally and not due to government services, there's been rapid dispersion of broadband service thus far. But if policymakers determine that some subsidies are nevertheless desirable, they should be narrowly focused on selected high-cost geographic areas where service is unavailable or on low-income persons. In keeping with the principle of financing broadly, funding for any such subsidies should come from general Treasury appropriations. The targeted subsidies should be awarded through some form of competitive bidding process to determine which operator, consistent with meeting defined service parameters, is the least cost provider. Any broadband subsidies deemed necessary should not be dispersed or financed through an unreformed universal service regime that resembles the existing one. This would perpetuate a system that is inefficient, wasteful, and competition suppressing. A last note of caution in considering whether broadband needs any universal subsidies is that we must have in mind the distinction between availability of service and use. There are many different demand-side reasons that people may not subscribe to broadband service. If I may finish up in 10 seconds, I'll finish up. The nature of unmet demand has many dimensions, and price often plays a minimal role. The point here is that there are different demand-side reasons why people do not take broadband service where it is available, and they will not be addressed by supply